Dr. Mark Changizi here with your Science Moment. Today I'm going to talk about 3 different ways of arguing in political realm, and they all come up in terms of the kind of COVID debates that we've been having for the last 2.5 years. And 2 of them are more obvious, and the third I think is less common and is really something that I think I've been more I'm not saying I'm doing it more than necessarily the other 2, but I feel like I see myself doing it more than I see really anybody else doing it. I can't think of very many that are into this angle of argument. So the first is, of course, just utilitarian arguments. This, in terms of whether it's the pro-COVID intervention side, saying, look, we got to do these interventions because otherwise everything is going to be much, much worse if we let the pandemic go through. And those on our side are saying, look, you've got to do a proper cost-benefit analysis. You can't just hand wave and say it's going to be so bad, so it justifies everything. Well, anyway, this realm as to whether masks are effective, the efficacy of lockdowns, the efficacy of vaccines, just with the divisiveness of any of these interventions also has to be included. These things are complicated utilitarian calculus issues, right? The second is civil liberties. It's more of a deontological kind of argument. That is, it doesn't depend upon the outcomes. It depends upon what it's okay for one group of people to do to other groups of people. Are you even allowed to do that no matter what ends occur? And that's a civil liberties kinds of arguments. And so these 2 are certainly the lion's share of the sorts of arguments that I would say occur on most political issues, and especially COVID. But there's a third one that's worth emphasizing. And we focus on that at the Free Expression Institute. And my pinned tweet since March 17th of 2020, pointed to that this is a mass hysteria. So the question is the argument style is unusual. It's saying, look, it's not that your utilitarian arguments are wrong, that is leading to something bad, and it's not that you don't have the right to do that, it's violating some kind of liberty issue. It's that here's the kind of large-scale emergent phenomena that you're part of. Right? You got swept up into this. Here's the explanation for why you believe the crazy things that you do, including that sort of seminal cooties video that I have on explaining the many crazy things that COVID cult believes. It's not an argument in some sense for or against per se. It's not an argument about the utilitarian ends or the civil liberties ends. It's instead saying, look, once we understand sort of human evolutionary instincts, and in some sense how these things, when combined together in groups, reveal themselves in universal ways, you can explain all the stuff that you believe. It all follows from that. And that's a kind of argument saying, look, you've been under a spell in some sense. You've been subject to typical human biases or human psychosocietal biases that explains, doesn't justify what you did, but it explains why you and these groups believe what they believe. And I think this third one is important because it not only because it hopefully can lead to ways for society to potentially stop, inhibit, reverse back these kinds of movements. And so it's a third, lesser appreciated avenue in political argument, explaining the meta reasons in some sense for why it is they believe that. Right? Too few people do that kind of thing, and I think it's important to point out. And that was your Science Moment. If you're interested in these sorts of things, take a look at Dr. Tim Barber and my Free Expression Institute, freex.group, and that was your Science Moment.